Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the OMB Report, where we look at the news in both a critical and a cynical fashion. Today, we'll be talking about the Gina Carano situation over in Star Wars land and how cancel culture has really reached a fever pitch where someone can just not give even any sense of an opinion on anything anymore from something that is not perceived to be the far left without having some ramifications for those actions and for those words. And it is both sickening and also terrifying at the same time, just seeing where we are right now in the cancel culture. We'll also talk a little bit about what is currently going on with some other voices being silenced on social media, and of course, what's going on with this sham of a of an impeachment hearing / trial. But before we do that, please be sure to smash the like button and smash the fire button if you're watching over on Odyssey. I recommend that everyone flock over to Odyssey. It is a free speech platform. Also, you can gain free cryptocurrency just by interacting with posts and watching content over there. And then you can donate those coins that you get over there to your favorite content creators, who can then turn that into actual currency, whether it be crypto or cash. So yeah, it's actually a pretty cool process, and I'm very much liking Odyssey and the library platforms. I've actually been playing around a lot with the library app on my Android phone and have been listening to tons of content on there. I've been trying to get away from YouTube as much as I possibly can, and it's just really nice to know that there is indeed an app and a service that allows for some pretty great video and podcast listening material. But anyway, let's go ahead and dive into this first story. This is something that I talked about on my main channel, the OMB Reviews, last night when this news broke, and I'm still very ticked off by this. I really am. And I put a couple polls out, and most people, the vast majority of people, are upset by this, and I think rightfully so. You know, at the end of the day, some people are trying to argue, oh, well, you know, she should have known better, and she should have known that Disney was in this position, etc., and kind of trying to put the blame on her. But to me, it's, why would we ever blame someone for using freedom of speech? And not just any freedom of speech, but just making a comment. You know, sharing someone else's post, essentially, is what happened in this specific case, if we are to believe that this was the, quote, final straw in the saga of Gina Carano. What it really comes down to is this. It's very clear that Disney has a double standard, that they will go out of their way to protect people if they fit into certain ideological brackets, right? If they fall into that far left, ideology-driven, identity politics-driven narrative, that they will protect them. They will protect them like no other. But when it comes to a badass like Gina Carano, someone who is not just a legit fighter, but also has really turned into a pretty solid actor as well, and someone that I know me and many other people will be fully supportive of with all of her future endeavors, because that's just what happens when you cancel somebody, especially when they're canceled over something that's stupid. All it does is make people more and more of a fan of them, right? People who are already fans become more hardcore fans, and then people that never even knew about her or even cared about her become her fans because of this injustice. So again, my thoughts and prayers go out to Gina Carano, because some people don't realize she's literally been canceled completely, right? Her talent agency has dropped her. Last I checked, she has not said anything on social media, so I hope she's okay. Because again, imagine if tomorrow you found out that you were completely fired from your job, and the last possible group that you had defending you, which would be in this case her talent agency, also dropped her as well. I mean, that's a very isolating thing to be in, and obviously they're trying to punish her, and the only crime that she committed was wrongthink. And this is what drives me crazy about modern day Hollywood, big tech, big government, is that they don't care about actual diversity. They don't care about diversity. To them, diversity is, oh, everyone has different color skin, everyone has a different gender, but they all think the same. That's not what diversity is, right? The studies that show that diversity is a very good thing for discussions and growth and to problem solving, all of that depends on people actually coming from different cultures and therefore different perspectives and different thought processes. When you try and essentially control the narrative and say, oh, no, we're just going to pick and choose you based on your look, but you have to have the same opinion as us, that's not true diversity, and all you end up having are a bunch of people who have the same exact thoughts, who come from the same exact place, and you're not going to grow at all. And it's that kind of nonsense that is really starting to make a lot of people, a lot of regular everyday people who consume material like TV shows and movies, ticked off. That's why you've had now for a very long time trending on Twitter, hashtag cancel Disney Plus. Because let's just be honest here, Gina Carano was one of the best things about what was going on in The Mandalorian, and now that she is no longer a part of it, and now that she will not be, as some people were speculating, part of the Rangers of the New Republic based on this current information, you've just lost a crap ton of people. Now, again, obviously, some people could argue saying, well, how many people are actually huge fans of hers? How many people are actually canceling Disney Plus? I understand that, right? Especially people like me who have Verizon and it just comes free within the package, right? It becomes a little trickier for us to be able to even navigate that because we're not actually giving money to them in the first place, and it just comes along with the actual process, comes along with the actual product itself. But it is still something where I think, and I really, really hope that someone's able to find these numbers to see just how many people actually were willing to actually cancel their service. And here's the crazy thing too, right? I do Friday Night Tights over on Nerdrotic, and we're very excited to be, covering this material and to be talking about this stuff. But we've been talking about, WandaVision now for weeks. And I am assuming that we're still going to talk about tomorrow's episode, though I imagine that many of us are going to be accessing it through various means, of course, allegedly. I have to make that point very clear, allegedly. But anyway, let's go ahead and dive into this. As it says here from the great Bounding into Comics, a friend of the channel, John F. Trent, says, Disney and Lucasfilm's firing of Gina Carano is purely political. They employ multiple people who regularly attack Republicans, white people, and Israel. And again, that's what it comes down to. It's not about what she said. It's about her philosophy. And that, I think, is what ticks me off and other people off the most. It's not that she's being attacked for what she said. It's being attacked for what she meant. It's because she's being attacked here for the philosophy that she put behind those words. Because as John F. Trent's going to point out, there have been other words said, and I would argue much worse words said by other people employed by Lucasfilm, other people employed by Disney, who, of course, have a different philosophy behind those words, and so therefore they're okay, they're accepted. And this double standard, that needs to start being called out more and more. It needs to be starting getting called out more and more and more, and we need to actually start holding them to account. As it says, on February 10th, that's yesterday, a Disney spokesman reported to a number of Hollywood trade publications that the Mandalorian star Gina Carano had been fired from her role as Cara Dune on the show. The spokesman stated, quote, Gina Carano is not currently employed by Lucasfilm, and there are no plans for her to be in the future, end quote. As for the reasons why she was fired, the spokesman explained, quote, nevertheless, her social media posts denigrating people based on their cultural and religious identities are abhorrent and unacceptable, end quote. Well, if you actually were to read the post that she put out there, that is complete garbage. That is not even true. There is no world where you could perceive what she said in that light, unless you were trying to twist the words to mean something that they don't actually mean, and trying to twist it because, again, she had wrongthink. You want to know why she was fired? It was not because she posted something. It's because she had wrongthink. It's because she committed the thought crime of wrongthink, and we all know wrongthink goes a very long way in the modern era of where we are. It says, the firing came after political activists masquerading as entertainment consumers called for Carano to be fired over a social media post referencing Nazi Germany that warned of the dangers of hating your neighbor. By the way, this channel on YouTube is completely demonetized, and so I have no problem saying a lot of these things now for this channel because everything gets backed up to Odyssey. Odyssey is a fantastic platform. I love it, and they protect free speech, so screw you, YouTube. Specifically, Carano shared on her Instagram stories a screenshot from the Warrior Priest Gym podcast that read, quote, Jews were beaten in the streets, not by Nazi soldiers, but by their neighbors, even by children. This is a historical fact. So again, it's not the reason, or rather, this is not the reason she got fired. It's not because of what she said. It's because of the intention and the philosophy behind it. Again, the crime of wrongthink. And yet they will continue to twist it, right? Look, the statement itself said that because she said something denigrating people based on their culture and religious identity, which is complete and utter fabrication, because if you actually were to follow Gina Carano on a daily basis, you know that she is one of the most respectful people out there when it comes to people from different perspectives. And yet, of course, they don't care because she has wrongthink. It says, a quote accompanying an image of children with blunt weapons chasing down a woman in undress reads, quote, because history is edited, most people today don't realize that to get to the point where Nazi soldiers could easily round up thousands of Jews, the government first made their own neighbors hate them simply for being Jews. How is that any different from hating someone for their political views? And that is an excellent question. That is an excellent point. it is something that I think we need to think about. Now, some people might try and argue, well, trying to bring up, the 1940s, trying to bring up this time during Nazi-era Germany, is it really fair to do it? And obviously, I understand that to say that these people are completely like Nazis is ridiculous. I understand that concept. But the general thought is still true, right? And we see it happening. The fact that Gina Carano was actually fired from her job proves this point. It says, what do? They try and turn people against each other. They try and vilify the other side. Keep in mind that I have several friends, but one in particular who reached out to me recently saying, hey, I don't like the things you're posting, essentially saying that. And kind of insinuating that our friendship couldn't exist anymore because I happen to have different thoughts. So it's working. It's already happening, right? People are turning against their friends. We were talking about this on the live show just the other day. There are people who have lost friends on Facebook, for instance, because they have a different political or philosophical perspective. That is insane. We used to be able to come together and have disagreements. We used to be able to come together from different philosophical point of views and have conversations. But now, oh no, if you have wrong think, you must be vilified. And the reason why is because they are treating anyone with different philosophical views that are maybe outside the mainstream, or maybe they are mainstream and people just don't want to talk about it. But they try and treat that as if they are these crazy fringe political points that have to be hated, that have to be punched in the face, right? Remember that old adage, oh, punch a Nazi in the face. But now who is a Nazi? Well, according to the mainstream media, according to big Hollywood, it's anyone that has even a slight conservative or right-leaning edge to them. Like Gina Carano, for instance. If you actually were to understand where she comes from and actually were to watch her interviews and were to actually follow her on a more regular basis than just this one post, you would understand that she is not a Republican. She has never come out to say, I'm a Trump supporter. She has never said these words. Instead, she has made commonsensical stuff. Hey, we are being vilified right now because of our political views. It seems to be pretty similar to something else. And remember, too, she was sharing a post from someone else. But apparently that doesn't matter. And again, here is the photo of, again, what she just said as a, again, historical fact. It goes on. The Discussing Film Twitter handle would expose itself as political activists when they led the charge to get Carano fired over this post. They wrote, quote, #fire Gina Carano is trending worldwide on social media after Gina Carano shared a disgusting post that compared being a Republican to being a Jew during the Holocaust. Really? Interesting thing here is that there is nothing about Republicans being mentioned. This is just saying people are being hated for their political views, and how is that any different than vilifying an opposing side and getting regular everyday people, right? It's not even just the Twitter mob at this point. I've just mentioned in my own life similar things happening in people who have talked to me's lives, similar things happening. So we know for a fact that this is happening. And what has Gina Carano's message always been? It's always been about positivity and love. She hates violence. She hates hatred. She wants people to get along, but what she's going to do is she's going to call out this nonsense as she sees it. She's going to call it out. But again, they don't care about context. They don't care about anything. All they care about is their political message. And I totally agree with John F. Trent's take on this. Discussing Film has proven itself to be nothing but political hacks. By throwing in words that were not even mentioned in the original post. We just saw it. You just saw every word of it. Not ever mentioned. It goes on. There is absolutely nothing wrong with what Carano posted, and she most definitely should not have been fired. Regardless, she was indeed fired for it. However, Lucasfilm and Disney employ people who have said much worse, and they are still on the payroll. As reported by Hollywood in Toto, the Eternals actor Kumail compared people who point out crimes committed by immigrants to Nazis back in 2018. But that wasn't disgusting when he said it, now was it? Now, I wonder why. What's the only difference there? And no, it has nothing to do with race or cultural background. It's because, ding, 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 he has right think. That is the key part to all of this. If you have right think, you can say almost anything you want, and you'll be defended, you'll be protected. If you have wrong think, if you have a different philosophy, oh no, we can't have that. We can't have diversity of thought in Hollywood. We can't have diversity of thought in the major public areas. It's insane. It is truly insane because it's this type of tribalism that leads us to being further divided and that leads to further fighting. If you want to really stop, if you really want to find ways to stop violence and to stop division in this country, if you really want to be claimed, oh, we're all about unity, this is not the way you do it. Firing someone because they have wrongthink? Please. But as it says here, Nanjiani wrote, quote, I know there are a bunch of people that upset at the Nazi comparisons, but the highlighting crimes by immigrants move is literally what Nazis did with Jews instead of immigrants. A surefire way to stop being compared to Nazis is to stop acting like him, end quote. Sounds a lot worse than what Gina Carano said, because remember, this actually came from him, whereas Gina Carano's post was shared from another source. He didn't get fired, now did he? In a follow-up tweet, Nanjiani would write, I studied Nazi Germany in college. The Holocaust didn't start overnight. There were 10 years of gradual changes that led to it. So read up about it. What I was stating actually had nothing to do with opinions. It's a fact that Hitler focused on crimes by Jews. He had a quote, so ironically, perhaps you should be educated about Nazi Germany and the conditions that led to it, end quote. In another follow-up, he would dismiss concerns about human trafficking, which U.S. Customs and Borders Protection report that, quote, at any given time in 2016, an estimated 40.3 million people are in modern slavery, including 24.9 million in forced labor and 15.4 million in forced marriage, end quote. The U.S. Customs and Border Protection Agency, a federal agency, has these numbers. Millions of people enslaved. And what does he do? He shrugs it off. Nanjiani wrote in response to a user who brought this up, quote, you and I don't have enough common ground as people to continue this conversation. We see people in the world in fundamentally different ways. Where you see human trafficking, I see people risking everything for better lives for themselves and their families. Are you kidding me? Did you not listen to what you just said? This is honestly, I think, another reason why Gina Carano was fired, because what was one of the biggest things that she pushed for? An end to human trafficking. She was one of the few celebrities in Hollywood that actually talked about issues that were important, that actually pushed for agenda items that everyone could get behind. I don't know of anyone that's pro-human trafficking. It's insane to me, though, that we have people like this. No repercussions, no firings whatsoever. But again, right think. Now, Johnny is not the only employee by Disney, the only employee of Disney who has made abhorrent statements. Pedro Pascal, who also stars in The Mandalorian, compared supporters of President Donald Trump to Nazis. And what's amazing about this, you know how all this really stems from the fact that people call Trump a dictator, right? They call him, an authoritarian. Last time I checked, authoritarian dictators can't get voted out of office. But of course, why would they care about facts? And here's the post from Pedro Pascal. Losers in 1865, Confederate losers. Losers in 1945, Nazis. Losers in 2020, make America great again. That's a pretty clear indication right there. That's a pretty clear comparison that you just made right there, Pedro Pascal. While he would eventually delete the post, he will double down on his opinion on Twitter. He wrote, quote, without restating the obvious, you feel me about the MAGA hats, right? Again, doubling down on it. So much for an apology. This isn't a new comparison for Pascal either. Back in 2018, Pascal posted to Twitter, quote, hashtag this is America. Yeah, that's a concentration camp right there. He's comparing that to what was happening in America in 2018, which, by the way, some people speculate that that image of the kids in cages, which is terrible, by the way, that's actually from the Obama era. Isn't that interesting? But you won't hear them talk about that now, will you? Because, again, right think versus wrong think. If Obama kills American citizens, which, by the way, factually, he did. Go ahead, look it up for yourself. He literally had a drone strike. He signed off on a drone strike that killed an American citizen. Also killed other civilians as well. Don't care, right? They don't care. They don't care about that at all. Because guess what? He has right think. If Obama's the one that builds the cages and has kids in cages, oh, nope, he has right think. We will protect him. But as soon as Donald Trump comes in office and, oh, wait, there's these cages that have kids already in there, oh, he's terrible. Now, again, kids in cages, it's a terrible thing. But the fact that only one person gets the blame and the other person that actually created the damn thing doesn't is ridiculous. But again, it comes down to right think versus wrong think. And it is ridiculous. Anyway, so this goes on to other crazy statements that have been made by other members of that are still employed by Disney, that are still employed by, obviously Lucasfilm as well, but even just Disney broader. And again, great article here from Bounding into Comics. And again, it is completely ridiculous. But again, it shows that they have a very clear double standard, right? Look at all of these examples of people who, again, work with and work for Disney. Not a single damn thing has happened to them. Not a single one. It goes on to say, this list is not exhaustive, but it gives you an idea of the people the company still employs, despite their hateful rhetoric. Meanwhile, Gina Carano was fired for warning about what that type of hate can lead you to. If it wasn't clear already, Disney and its subsidiaries appear to not only employ hateful people, but are actively choosing to support it by keeping these individuals employed. Yes, and firing people whose only crime, once again, was wrongthink. Because she happened to not be a flaming liberal. Because she happened to not be someone that puts pronouns in the bio. Because she doesn't buy into the insanity right now that's being pushed in Hollywood. Nope, can't have that. They were waiting. They were waiting for her to do something. They were waiting for her to make one mistake. And she did. In their eyes. I still look to that original post. Again, let's go back to that original post because this is what it all comes down to, right? This is what they say. Again, shared on her story on Instagram from another source. Once again, it says right here, Jews were beat in the streets, not by Nazi soldiers, but by their neighbors, even by children. Because history is edited, most people today don't realize that to get to the point where Nazi soldiers could easily round up thousands of Jews, the government first made their own neighbors hate them simply for being Jews. How is that any different from hating someone for their political party views? And again, this is not pointing out specifically Republicans. This is just saying that we live in a world today where if you have wrongthink, if you have a different political perspective, you are viewed as an outcast. People have been fired from their jobs simply because of their opinions. People have been driven away from the public sphere simply because of their opinions. And so the thought is, if we are going to continue on in this, and just look, pay attention. Look at what's going on with the sham of an impeachment. Look at what's going on with the rhetoric being pushed out by members of Congress about how they want to shut down people from having access to things like the internet, from banking, just because of their political ideologies. If you cannot see the clear correlations there and how this is just a warning, hey, if it can happen at some point in history, it can happen again. Look for the signs. And again, many of us have loved ones, many of us have friends, year-long friends, who are already showing us that this is real, that this is happening, that what Gina Carano has warned us against is actually happening right now. And it's just going to get worse because the only people that would actually be willing to speak about this, that are in positions of authority and positions of power to actually do it, get fired for nothing. It's insane. But anyway, I obviously wanted to spend most of this episode on Gina Carano because I just think it's a crime what happened to her. Obviously, Disney is a private corporation and they can hire and fire whoever they choose. But for me, it comes down to consistency. For me, it comes down to the double standard. That is what gets me more than anything else. Because as this article points out, this is not the worst thing that's ever been said. Again, she's not calling out anyone here. She's just, again, reposting something else that's raising a question. Hey, wait a minute. There seems to be something amiss here. Anyway, she's not the only one that's being censored right now, as it says right here. Project Veritas has also, James O'Keefe, they've also now been permabanned on Twitter as well. Why? Well, because, of course, they are willing to do undercover investigations, something that, used to be very commonplace in the media. Apparently, there's no place for that anymore. Apparently, there's no room for journalism today anymore. So anyway, let's go ahead and cover what it says here. Quote, or not quote, this is from Town Hall. This was only a matter of time. During the 2020 election, James O'Keefe's Project Veritas, an investigative journalism outfit, did an interview with a U.S. postal worker from Erie, Pennsylvania, who alleged that there were discussions about illegally backdating mail-in ballots. The type of journalism Veritas doles out upsets the establishment and is invariably fearless. In the wake of wokeness and Joe Biden winning the 2020 election, that's a problem. In an era of increasing censorship from big tech, that's a problem. So it should shock us that after Project Veritas did a story where they reported that social media giants were allegedly crafting hate speech algorithms, Twitter came down with a two-handed sword and decapitated the media outlet from their platform via the Washington Times. Project Veritas and its reporting by President James O'Keefe have been suspended by Twitter in the wake of a story on social media hate speech algorithms. The investigative reporting organization, long a thorn in the side of Silicon Valley, announced the move early Thursday, saying, quote, "Wow, Twitter has just locked down James O'Keefe's and the Project Veritas account for reporting on Facebook VP Guy Rosen and his statements that Facebook freezes comments in places that algorithms think there may be hate speech, the group said via its Facebook page. Kind of crazy stuff what's going on here. And obviously you have a lot of people covering this, Elijah Schaefer, Daily Caller, Breaking 911 as well. It says right here, yeah, mainstream conservative thought has now been reclassified as neo-Nazi rhetoric by the left. Anything that does not kowtow or fall within the parameters of what the institutional left views as acceptable are racist, sexist, or par of any ism they weaponize to destroy their enemies. And they know they can get away with it. Like it or not, hate speech is free speech. Crazy speech is free speech, and we have a constitutional right to believe it, support it, and advocate for it, or not. This is America. You don't have to subject yourself to any one person's views. If someone having a view contrary to yours bothers you, then I don't know what to say other than you might be the problem, or you might have a problem. Again, I think that's an incredible point to make. It says here, CNN head of strategic communications celebrates James O'Keefe being locked out of his account. CNN loves censorship. Dornick and his fellow Zucker minions don't give one single damn about press freedoms and free speech other than their own. Kind of insane when you think about it, right? We have major media personalities and major media corporations that are celebrating the silence of journalists for doing nothing more than their damn job. Crazy, crazy stuff. And of course, amid all of this crazy stuff going on, we of course also have this impeachment going on as well. And it's a show. It's a circus. It's a complete circus. And I'm going to be honest, I have not been watching any of it. I have just been watching some of the headlines, some of the stories I've been reading from it, because at the end of the day, I really don't care. Because it's a complete show. It's a complete circus. It's a complete joke. Even if they were going to get a conviction from this, it wouldn't mean a damn thing to me because, again, it's political theater. And if you can't see that it's political theater, you are not paying attention. Like if you're watching this stuff with bated breath and saying, "Oh yes, CNN, give me more. MSNBC, give me more. Fox News, give me more," you do have a problem, and you need to get help. Honestly, you really do need to get help because there are so many other things going on in life that are worth enjoying than this insanity. And also keep in mind that you are now setting the standard. So if you think that this is going to end with Donald Trump, just wait for Joe Biden to get impeached. Oh, you don't think it's going to happen? Hey, if the power shifts in 2 to 4 years, guess what? It absolutely could happen. Because again, politics is cyclical. And if you don't think that what's happened right now and happening right now to a Republican and to several Republicans actually in the House and Senate, right? Marjorie Taylor Greene literally had her all of her committee stripped from her, not by her party, but by the majority in the House. If you don't think that something like that will happen again in the future to someone on the other side, get ready. Get ready for a wake-up call. And it's not going to be good. And I don't like it. I honestly, I really do want us to finally be able to rise above this. I really want us to be able to finally be able to actually come together and have these discussions that we need to have. The unfortunate thing is that one side seems a lot more willing to do it. So if the Republicans said, we're going to be the bigger and stronger men and women and we're just going to move past this and we're not going to get retribution, all it's going to do is essentially give the the people on the left the freedom to say, okay, well then when we get back in power, we'll just keep doing the same thing. So again, it's kind of this lose-lose scenario here, which is why we need a lot more than just two political parties in this country, in my own opinion. But, of course, we also have just to show you how crazy all of this is, apparently we have an impeachment blunder. It says that Jennifer Lawrence told Rep. Swalwell never called her to check meaning and appears to have altered her tweet with a blue check mark. Pastor backs her up. So yes, something used as evidence in a trial has now been shown to have been doctored. See, if this was an actual criminal trial, if this trial actually meant anything, guess what? That evidence would be thrown out immediately, and also there's a good chance this case would be thrown out immediately because they are falsifying evidence. Which, again, it's just crazy. And this was already bad enough, right? You already had that video they posted on the opening day where they left out key words spoken by Trump. Remember that Trump, on the day of the riot, said clearly, go peacefully and patriotically. But guess what they didn't air during the video? Those words. Gee, I wonder why. Goes against the narrative, I guess, right? Oh, man. But this is just what we're going on here. All right, it says right here, the author of a tweet introduced by Democrats at the Senate impeachment trial said Thursday her statement, quote, "We are bringing the Calvary" was a clear reference to a prayer vigil organized by churchgoers supporting Trump and not a call for military-like violence at the Capitol riot as portrayed by Rep. Eric Swalwell. Oh, yeah, Swalwell. Good old Swalwell. How's Fong Fong doing? Remember the Chinese spy that you were sleeping with? Yeah. You've not been kicked off of any of your committees. You're still in power. You're actually able to somehow be a manager on this impeachment trial. Oh, yeah. Let us know how Fong Fong is doing, please. Jennifer Lynn Lawrence also said she believes the California Democrat and House impeachment manager falsified her tweet, adding a blue check mark to the version he introduced at the trial, suggesting she was verified Twitter user with more clout, when in fact her Twitter account never had a blue check mark and has never been verified. Says, quote, "I noticed when they put my tweet on the screen that all of a sudden my tweet had a blue check mark next to it," she said during an interview. This way, if he enters into that congressional testimony, it's a verified account and it could be applicable to in law. Secondly, he wanted to show that my Twitter account had more gravitas than it actually did. He wanted to show that the president was trying to use me to bring in the Calvary. A check of Lawrence's Twitter account shows she does not have a blue checkmark verification. Swallow's version of her tweet introduced at the trial did. Swallow's office did not immediately return a call Thursday seeking reaction. Oh, really? Never would have guessed that. When in response to her tweet, "That's exactly what I meant," she says. "I did not mean we were bringing the Calvary. I wasn't going to hop on horseback and come riding into D.C. with my horses and my Calvary. And you know what we did on January 5th? We held a prayer event at Freedom Plaza, and we prayed. And we brought Jesus Christ back into Washington, D.C. Yep. But that's the kind of stuff that's being brought forward as evidence, and other things being left out, other things being altered as well. Again, this thing is a complete sham, and in my opinion, it should be ignored. In all honesty, other than reading articles and getting basic updates for it, it really should just be completely ignored at this point, because it's a complete joke. They're obviously not taking it very seriously. There's no reason for us to take it seriously either. And even if Trump is acquitted, which is a very good chance, remember that when they first did this vote a couple weeks ago about the constitutionality of the process, 45 Republicans said this was not constitutional. When they brought up the question again in an official capacity, 44 Republicans said this was not constitutional. This was after the managers of the House were able to bring up their initial arguments, right? So still, 44 said it was not even a constitutional process. So you're going to tell me that you're going to get several more Republicans who already think the process is not legal, that somehow they're going to vote to convict a man who's not even the president anymore? Again, could it happen? Sure, it's a crazy world that we live in. It's 2020 part 2, as I like to say about this year, but it's ridiculous. But anyway, what are your thoughts about all of this stuff? Obviously, much of this video was focused on, and this obviously I recorded this as a podcast as well, was focused on what's going on with Gina Carano. Again, thoughts and prayers out to Gina Carano, because Lord knows this cannot be easy for her or her family. Again, imagine that your family are hearing probably some of the worst, some of the most disgusting things said about you, right? Said about their daughter, said about their sister, whatever. Again, I don't know her full family life, but think about that. Like, think about who is hearing what, and just how wrong and how twisted and how falsified so many of these reports are. Again, here is the actual post for yourself to read. And again, John F. Trent did a great job exposing just how hypocritical all of this is. So I would also end with this. If you are someone and you have disowned somebody, or you have threatened someone to disown them, or anything to that effect, because they have a different opinion than you, I recommend take a breath, think about your life for a second, and honestly ask the question, is it worth losing a friendship because someone has a different opinion? And if it is, God save you. Seriously. You need the help of God at this point, if that is the kind of place that you're in right now. And to those who have lost friends because you happen to have a different opinion, God save you as well, because Lord knows it can't be easy. But this is what they're trying to do. They're trying to isolate people. They're trying to push people away. They're trying to say that all of these thoughts are fringe, crazy. And again, it's all a part of a greater plan. And at the end of the day, there are a lot of similarities, whether you like it or not. Anyway, let me know your thoughts about this stuff in the comment section below. And again, please, if you want to support this video, watch it over on Minds Plus. Again, I upload my videos over on Minds Plus, and I also upload them over on Odyssey as well. And of course, I do upload them to YouTube, but I'm pretty much trying to give up on YouTube. I know I have a lot of people that still watch exclusively there. So if you are one of those people, again, thank you for the love and support, but try and see if you can move over to Odyssey or Library, because I think it's just a better platform. It promotes free speech. And yeah, and my YouTube channel was completely demonetized, the OMB Report channel. So again, you can also help out by donating some of the cryptocurrencies that you can gain for free while interacting with content over on Odyssey. Anyway, you guys are all amazing and beautiful people. Thank you all very much for your love and for your support. And I hope that you continue to enjoy these longer form podcast episodes talking about some of the important issues of the day. It really is a lot of fun to talk about. And I know that this was an issue especially that means a lot to me. So anyway, you guys rock. Have a wonderful day. And as always, God bless.